Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. If you're not an entitled soul, prove it by hitting the like and subscribe buttons down below. Our first story of the day is by Jujuverse Uwu. Really? Over lawn letters? So I just got into the whole Reddit craze, but once I started learning about entitled parents, I knew my dear old mother belonged here. Here's a little history about my relationship with my mother. At the age of about 12, I decided I wanted to move in with my dad. They've been separated since I was about 2. Once I was living with my dad, my mom cut all contact with me until the day I got kicked out of my dad's house at the age of 19. We become close again and I moved in with her. We talked about her leaving a lot, and I kid you not, she looks at me and says, "I don't regret it, and if given the opportunity, I probably would have done it sooner." Yup, my mom said that to me. She used to always tell my girlfriend that you could do so much better, and why would she want to be held down by someone like him? He's not going to go anywhere when I wasn't there, but that's not what this story's about, so let's keep on moving. It was around my mom's birthday, and she saw that the 19-year-old down the street had lawn letters for her birthday. It spelled out, "Happy 19th birthday, blank." I thought it was dumb. My mom at the time thought it was dumb, but her tone changed when it came time for her birthday. I really want lawn letters for my birthday, so I don't know who's going to do it, but someone figure it out. Yep, because that's how you ask someone for something. But it's my mom, and honestly, no one was surprised, not even my girlfriend, now wife, who just met her the month prior. I wasn't familiar with how much things were flying off the shelves, but since drive-by celebrations were a huge thing at the time, everything was sold out, or it would be delivered after the exact date. Not an option at all. I called my mom to tell her, and the conversation kinda went like this. Reminder, this is about 2 days until her birthday. I said, "Hey mom, I've been looking everywhere for these letters, and I can't find them." Mom, laughing but serious, says, "Well, you better drive to another store because I want lawn letters." Me, already seeing where this is going, says, "Mom, there's no stores that have them in stock. I found one place, but it's $11 a letter, and just your name alone has 6 letters. She says, "Well, you can..." I say, "Mom, I'm not about to spend almost $300 on lawn letters." She says, "All I know is I better have my letters." And I say, "And all I know is you most likely won't have them, but we're still doing a barbecue for you in the backyard, so we're still gonna have a lot of fun." She then hung up. I already knew she was gonna be on BS on her birthday, but a little part of me hoped that she wouldn't be herself. Boy, was I wrong. Side note, while writing this, I asked my girlfriend who was right next to her during the conversation. She said my mom looked for lawn letters herself, but couldn't find anything. On my mom's birthday, I woke up before anyone else did. I drove to any party store and was desperately looking for lawn letters, but I couldn't find anything. I ended up calling her to tell her that I'm sorry, but I can't find them. Although I don't remember what exactly was said, I do remember her hanging up mad. I came home and saw my stepdad on the couch with watery eyes. This man crossed the border at 19 from a third world country, has seen death firsthand multiple times, was living on the streets, learned English in his 20s, not perfectly but better than all of his family, and so on. I've only seen him cry like 3 times. This was one of those 3 times. He was mad and talking a mile a minute. He said, "You know, I left my country, I left my family, I haven't seen most of them in years. I made that choice on my own, years before I met your mother, but your mom doesn't appreciate anything." I said, "What happened?" Stepdad says, "I woke up early to go buy flowers for her and bought her a little bear. When she woke up and saw she didn't have lawn letters, she was freaking mad." He started to get a bit more choked up and said, "She comes into the kitchen and I say, 'Happy birthday, my love.' She looks at the freaking flowers, the bear and my coffee. She throws the flowers and bear away in the trash, pours my coffee on top of it, and throws my cup away. I looked in the trash, and it was a cup I gave to him on my first Father's Day back with him. He loves that thing and used it every day." I go back to stepdad. He says, "You know, I can't even hang a photo of my own mother in this house. Your mom doesn't like her, so she isn't allowed to be hung up." This was true. My mom in English would tell me how she can't wait for her to die so she can dance and pee on her grave. My mom's a peach. I say in English because she would say this in front of stepdad, openly stating, "He doesn't know what I'm saying." He did. I'm looking at stepdad and just tell him I'm sorry for my mom and that this isn't right. He did and still does everything for her, and everyone knew that. Me and my girlfriend go to the mall and I message my mom. I send her this long text message about how stepdad has taken care of us for years, and although he isn't perfect, he loves all of us, and how horrible she is. She explodes on me and basically tells me I have no idea what's going on. She then gets a hotel for herself and spends the next 3 days, including her birthday, alone. I unfortunately love my mom, but I don't like her. My mom used to talk bad about every person, but would still say something nice. I thought she did the same for me, so I asked my wife, "What's one nice thing my mom said about me?" She says she's never said anything nice about you. I haven't talked to her in about a year, and honestly, my life's been way more peaceful. We don't talk because of a lot of things, but this wasn't the argument that killed our relationship again. But maybe that's a story for another day. If your own mother was treating you like that, talking bad about you, being pretty insufferable just to be around, would you be willing to just cut them off completely? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by a K. Naveed. Pregnant mom hates my sandwich. I was just in the airport and had ordered some food. I put it in my backpack and I walk over to a corner and was texting a friend when a woman comes over and stands near me. I finished texting my friend, so I pull out my sandwich and started eating when the woman who came over to me asked me to move away because the smell of my sandwich makes her nauseous. I said no, and she told me she was pregnant, which would make the nausea thing make sense, and she pressured me more, so I just walked away because I'm on a work trip and in uniform. I couldn't believe that she came into my space and requested me to leave. There's definitely scenarios where people who are pregnant get a little bit of extra special treatment. But if you're going to get up near somebody else and complain that they're the problem, when you actively chose to scoot up next to them, and then you pull the pregnancy card, definitely entitled. Our next story is by Detrezur. My entitled mother went to pray when I got a side cut of my hair, saying it wasn't God. Well, first of all, a basic explanation of what my mother's like. She accepts homosexuals outside of the home, but inside the family, it works in a completely different way. I'm from Brazil, and my story begins when I went to college in Rio de Janeiro in 2017. At the end of that same year, I admitted to her that I liked women. I wrote a huge text saying how I felt and why I always lied or said that the rumors about my sexuality were a lie. She spent almost 4 hours without answering me. I heard from her that she would never accept my relationship with a woman and that this was not a God thing. I insisted on the subject, telling her that God loves everyone regardless of their sexuality, but she insisted that that was the work of the devil and so on. She said she wanted to have a conversation with me personally, but I avoided that conversation for almost 1.5 years. When I arrived in Sao Paulo to visit my aunt, she was there. There were many changes in my life, mainly in the way I dress and my haircut. I shaved the side and pierced the helix. She took about half an hour to look me in the eye because she was too busy making cake and sweets as she helped my aunt, who worked at a buffet. When she looked at me, it was like this. She said, "Did you shave your hair?" I said, "Yes, do you like it?" Then I showed her, and she just sulked and saw the piercing. She said, "Did you pierce the ear too?" I said, "Yes." She says, "I'll be right back." She dried her hands on a cloth and left the kitchen, then locked herself in the room and returned 40 minutes later. I looked at her without understanding and questioned her. "So, what did you do?" She says, "I went to pray." I ask, "Pray? But why?" She says, "This is not a God thing." I, confused, say, "I just cut my hair." At the end of the day, she didn't want to talk to me and avoided looking at me as much as possible. I mean, all things considered, at least it's not like a very hostile thing. At least she just went and prayed about it, but I hope as OP continues to embrace and accept who they are, that their mom will slowly grow to accept and embrace it as well. I do believe that most people who are heavily resistant to the idea of accepting LGBTQ+ people that then get faced with one of their own relatives, especially their children, being one of those people, it can genuinely cause a great change in the parent for the better. So yeah, hopefully over time, as OP continues to show that this is really them, the mom comes to accept it. Our next story is by Eggroll1967, entitled "Parents Gave My Sister My Car." My sister called me earlier this evening. She's younger than me, still in high school. She tells me she wrecked her car. She's fine, the car's in the shop getting repaired. I'm glad she's okay, and we joke around until she tells me my parents gave her my car to use. I'm an adult living in my own apartment. The car's legally registered to me on my insurance, which I pay for. Any damage this car takes is my responsibility to repair. Earlier this month, my engine blew up on me. It was in the shop for a week. I rely on this vehicle for my job. After getting it out, the engine light comes on again. I call my dad to figure out if I need to take it back to the shop, which I really can't afford right now. He offers to switch vehicles with me so he can get it into the shop, as he only goes to and from his job. My career requires driving to make money, delivery, and also a nanny for school-aged kids, so we switched. He has yet to make an appointment, so I was about to take my car back anyway to deal with it myself until this happened. My sister is a teenager. She's not a great driver. I'm actually surprised it took this long for her to wreck. She tailgates and brakes last second. She's also driven a smaller car since getting her license, as minivans are, it's bulky, slow to brake, hard to park in small spaces. I'm lucky as I learned to drive in it. She's driven it only a few times. I'm angry and I'm also worried. If I take my car back now, I won't be able to work as it's in the shop and I won't have enough to pay rent. But if anything happens while she's driving, I will be out of a car for a long time, as well as dealing with insurance issues. My parents didn't ask me for permission. In fact, my sister told me that they told her to tell me about this. Nowhere did I give consent for this. My sister's acting like it's a big joke. My parents have always treated my belongings as theirs, and it seems my car is no different. I'm not angry at my sister, but livid with my parents. They also refused to answer my texts regarding it. I'm a grown adult with a job and an apartment, and bills to pay. If this car gets damaged too, I'm beyond screwed. Definitely bottom line, extremely reckless for them to do this. It's one thing if you have some food in the fridge or in the cabinets or something that you brought over. It's a little different when it's a literal car that they're like, oh sure, I'm sure he won't mind, go ahead and drive it, sweetheart. The only reason it's in your possession is because you need to take it in for an engine repair. How did they ever think in the first place that it was a good idea to begin with? I definitely feel bad for OP. And our final story of the day is by Taylou33, entitled Mom Twisted My Arm Behind My Back When I Was a Kid. This was the early 90s and my dad was in the British Army. We lived in army quarters and there's a play park about 1 minute walk from us. There was this boy who was about a year older than me who bullied me something chronic. Anytime I was on my own, he'd run up, push me over, hit me, punch me, etc. Not that it matters, but I'm female. It got to the point where I had to have an adult go to the park with me for a while. For a few months he wasn't there, so it was decided I could go on my own again. My parents couldn't talk to the kid's parents because at that time, I didn't know where he lived. My dad was serving in the Gulf during the first Gulf War, and my sister was around 3 at the time. Because a lot of the army wives couldn't drive and the shop was fairly far away, there used to be this mobile shop coming around. It was like a transit van with the back turned into a proper shop. It used to pull up outside the back of our house. The houses were positioned weirdly. There was only a footpath out front, so everyone used their back doors instead. The gardens backed onto the garages, then there was like a drive type thing, then the road, then the car park. My mom sent me out with some money and asked me to get some bread. So I'm just standing there, minding my own business, when that boy came out of nowhere. Saw my parents weren't there, jumped on me, and dug his nails into me and scratched from my forehead all the way down my face. My reaction was just to push him off me, and this kid went flying into the crowd, which parted, so he fell on his butt. As I'm straightening up, his mother, this complete witch, grabbed my arm and twisted it up behind my back, screaming something in my ear about pushing her kid, and I honestly can't remember what she was yelling because I was so panicked. She let go and pushed me over. I leapt up crying and ran in to tell my mom what happened. Mom went flying out there. My sister was playing in the next door neighbor's garden with their 2 boys in full mama bear mode, but the woman and her kid were gone. The people who'd seen what happened told her what went down and told her their address. Of course, Mom dragged me around there, and wouldn't you know it, it was just the opposite park. You could literally see their house from the park, and banged on the door. No answer, but we could hear people inside the house. My dad was home from the Gulf at this point and had been for a few months, so when he got in from work, Mom told him what happened and showed him my face, which still had scratches down it, and I had a bruise on my wrist from where the witch grabbed me. My dad marched me over there and banged on the door. Her husband answered, and Dad asked to speak to the wife. Something to also note, this man was also in the army and also had a bad reputation as a bully. He refused and told Dad to freak off basically, and at the same time, his wife was screaming that I'd pushed her precious baby over for no reason. At which point, my dad points to my face and shows my wrist and tells me there were about 10 witnesses who saw what happened and it backed up my story. The husband then threatened to beat my dad up. Dad said he'd leave, but he'd be going to speak to the husband's commanding officer in the morning. The guy told my dad to freak off again before slamming the door in my dad's face. Well, unbeknownst to the husband, the neighbors heard everything that went on and even witnessed what had happened to me at the hands of the mother. Dad goes to work next day. No point in calling, the commanding officer wouldn't have gone home at that point. Speaks to the husband's commanding officer. Dad couldn't have done anything, he was a corporal at the time. Told him what his wife had done to me and what happened when Dad went around there, and the husband ended up being brought up on charges for threatening my dad, and then he got posted elsewhere with about 2 weeks' notice. Loved how that ended. I could go to the park all I wanted without being with an adult and without fear of getting beaten up every time I went. Thank God there was somebody up high enough that could really actually give punishment for these people's ridiculous actions. Going around thinking it's okay to bully people, hit people, abuse people? I mean, it's a little harsh, but getting posted elsewhere right away for that? For a lifetime of being a bully and raising a bully? Maybe it'll teach you something. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.